The head of the World Health Organization, Tedros, has been re-elected in a secret selection without asking any of us, and we bring you the latest fails from this year's World Economic Forum conference in Davos. Welcome to Disrupt. Hello everybody, welcome to Disrupt, the show where we bring you the news stories where either the mainstream media are completely refusing or failing to cover, or they give you their own weird biased spin, and we're going to basically try to disrupt their narrative. We are back, as you can see, with a new show, the Ukraine brief. We are, for now, giving up on the Ukraine brief because there's no point to just follow the mainstream media's narrative. We're going to wait until we get a proper update on the conflict and see exactly where we stand. So today we're going to give you the latest update from Tedros, the head of the World Health Organization, the guy who yesterday was somehow re-elected as the chief of the WHO. And I have no idea why this is even a thing. The United Nations website proudly reported this news, and we didn't really hear anything in the British media, whether it was the BBC or Sky or any of them really, because it wasn't a real election. Just like any other bureaucratic and undemocratic international institution, sort of like the European Commission. They have their own internal so-called elections. We don't really know who these people are. Certain assembly members, they have assemblies, they get together, they have a meeting, and they decide to use a secret ballot to essentially choose the person that we already knew was going to be chosen. Every single time in any of these situations reminds you of the old days of Kremlin after Stalin, where they were just basically deciding unanimously inside their own secret meetings who's going to be leading the narrative. And this is a weird thing because the UN came out and said that Tedros' re-election was met with wide and loud applause from ministers and others at the assembly in Geneva, according to the news report that he received 155 out of 160 votes that were cast, although he did not win the support of his native Ethiopia. I wonder why. We all know exactly why. And firstly, 5 members did not vote for Tedros. I really want to know who the other 4 are, because it's going to be quite fascinating to find out exactly the conflict inside the WHO tent. But this was when he was, again, re-elected. He is extremely humble, and he's extremely in favor of public health. As you can see, is following all the guidelines that he and people like him advocated until recently, even now, that we should still do it voluntarily. You should wear your face nappies and everything else voluntarily. No one's going to force you, but do it, because this situation is not over. I mean, they keep telling us. I mean, he had a meeting yesterday when the assembly, so-called assembly, got together. He had a very, very nice heart-to-heart discussion with Sajid Javid, his bestie, and he tweeted about it. It's great to meet my friend Sajid Javid about our strong partnership. They discussed Ukraine. Oh, okay. Clearly, Tedros is an expert in the Ukraine conflict, so why not listen to Sajid Javid on Tedros and how to fix the humanitarian issues across the world? I mean, it would have been funnier if they had Bill Gates sitting in that meeting as well. He literally has things to say about any issue across the world. But we have a situation where these guys are essentially treating the whole tent as some sort of entitlement, that we don't really have a right to ask questions. Even our own journalists, mainstream journalists, every time they try to send reporters to ask proper questions, whether it's in Davos, which we're going to talk about in this channel later on in the show, or these WHO meetings, they don't really give proper answers, do they? Because that's not the purpose of them. It's all about hypocrisy, by the way. This is the German delegate saying congrats to Tedros, wearing a face nappy, which defeats the purpose, because if you're going to be all over each other, like touching each other all over, not doing social distancing, what is the point of covering your face? It makes no sense. It's all for theatre. And she's doing it. If I were Tedros, I'll feel embarrassed, because I would be the chief of WHO, shaking hands and hugging and a German health minister, I guess, who is more in favor of health measures than myself. It's a bit embarrassing, and they don't really have consistency anyway. And we all know the whole thing is basically theatre. It's all part of a show, and nobody cares about this aspect of WHO. Everybody's more worried about the policies that comes out of the organization. And for example, all these people who've been saying congrats to Tedros, everyone's been tweeting, everyone's been retweeting, and then I found this one who's in charge, Dr. Natalia, who's in charge of the UK, UN's Population Fund. Yeah, the United Nations Population Fund. Her, I mean, I can say her, yeah. Her pronouns are she, her, Ella. What's Ella? I mean, am I so out of touch now? They're not down with the kids. I don't know what Ella is as a pronoun. Because it has to be, because it's right next to she and her, so it has to be part of the pronouns. So these are the people we have to put our faith in. Literally just trust that they know better than us. The so-called Dr. Tedros and now Dr. Natalia, without actually having any expertise in certain areas, they just have their titles and we have to basically listen to them. This is basically the reality of the international institutions. Globalism is going completely hybrid with fake democracies, and we don't really have actual national sovereignty right now anymore, because you keep signing up to all these institutions. What is the point of having national sovereignty if you're not going to really respect it? Now, speaking of which, the United Nations are still warning, and Tedros, literally as he got re-elected, that the whole Wuhan situation is not over. If he's saying it's not over, then why was he not following the guidelines in that meeting? What is the point of going out there, telling the UK, telling America, telling all these countries in the West that we should still be careful because some countries in Asia and Africa are still not following the rules? Why is it our responsibility? I mean, I don't understand what's going on right now. And considering the UK, for example, with all the jabs that we had on news, we send them all, we donated them all to all these countries. What else do you want us to do? Do you want a fourth lockdown? Because that's not going to happen. Now, let's go to the next news, because we have at the same time Davos having their conference, the WEF, and it's quite interesting because they are trying to be more transparent. So they are sending out all these videos and clips. They should really be more careful, because we have some incident that happened inside the Davos tent. This lady was discussing the future of electric cars and everything else that's going green. By 2030, we're not going to own anything, but we are going to be happy. That's basically what they want. And she decided to ask a very simple question from the World Economic Forum activists and members who were present in the room. She said, hands up, how many of you actually are following what we are preaching? How many of you own an electric vehicle?
So I'm going to throw this immediately out to the audience and say, how many of you are driving an electric vehicle at the moment? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would say that probably constitutes less than 5% of the persons sitting here in this room.
Absolutely embarrassing. Only 4 of them put their hands up. And these are the people who are going to go home to their countries. And whether they are the journalist activists for the WF or the young, what do they call them? The Young Global Leaders program that they have, and all the young ministers and going to Justin Trudeau's cabinet. They're going to go to Canada, they're going to go to the UK and Germany and all these places and say, well, we came from a very, very wonderful conference and all the globalists sat there, they know better than us. So we've learned that you guys should sacrifice your lifestyle. You can't afford energy and fuel. It doesn't matter. Just get an electric car. I don't care that you can't afford it. And whereas this, they don't really do it themselves. If they don't have to, they won't. And it's like all the celebrities who came all the way to London from Hollywood, like Emma Thompson and the others, getting the private jets and planes and protesting against energy. Defeats the purpose. What's the point? And then you are actually destroying your own cause. You're alienating a lot of ordinary people out there on the fence who are just in the middle ground people who just want to have like a normal, clean environment, clean water, clean air. But then you go way too far and you wonder why people are sick and tired of your narrative. Now, none of this is being mentioned in the mainstream media, so it's our job to report it thanks to your support and to give a obviously massive thank you to everybody who's been supporting us and backing our channel every day. At the end of Disrupt, we go to your comments and we give a shout out to the top 3 randomly obviously chosen, the top 3 most popular comments from the previous videos. Let's go firstly to Christina Lazel saying this is referring to the Gary Lineker video that we did earlier, saying that if Gary Lineker hates his country so much, and he obviously does, and the British people in it, he has plenty of money to move to an European Union country, which he seems to love so much. This was again because we reported that Gary Lineker has a bit of a problem with the British flag, the Union flag. And he said he's just confused. He doesn't understand the purpose of flags, even though he was a football player. The whole point of the flag is to differentiate between the tribes, and it's a symbolic thing. It's nothing crazy, nothing extreme. It's just a flag. Calm down, Gary. But that was obviously Christina's comment on that issue. We have Karina Bailey saying about the BBC messing up yesterday. If you guys saw the video where someone took over the BBC ticker at the bottom, and they wrote some random stuff like Man United are rubbish and weather, rain everywhere. The BBC came and said, oh, someone was doing practice run. They were doing a training. And actually, Karina said, I would have thought that an organization the size of the BBC would have training sites where they are learning on live equipment. However, I'm pleased to see that they owned up to it and told the truth instead of blaming the government or the Tories. Well, I did actually double check. Most of the time, these organizations don't do training on using live equipment. They use the draft system. It makes no sense. Why would they do it? Because this will happen. If they're going to be doing training, then of course, every time there's a live report, someone's going to change the words. So either that's a lie, or yes, someone actually made a mistake and they were not supposed to be using the live equipment. But it doesn't matter because the whole point is that the BBC are still incompetent. They don't even know what they are doing, which is quite a shame, right? Last comment is from Quote Me Not, which is ironic because I'm going to quote you, saying, always good to hear that the corrupt Labour politicians, and this is obviously referring to Jess Phillips, who has now been found of breaking parliamentary rules on expenses and obviously extra income. Labour politicians are thriving and stealing as fast as they can. Nothing beats a corrupt Labour politician than another corrupt Labour politician. The problem I have, as I said in the video, is not just that they are corrupt, it's that they come out there and they go crazy if another MP from a different party, not just Tories, but usually Tories, or even if it's a Lib Dem politician making a mistake in their expense reports, then Labour politicians like Jess Phillips go mental and say, well, this is it. This is the end of the world as we know it. They should all go to prison. Well, when they do it, or when their own colleagues, there have been so many Labour MPs recently who have either been arrested or been found guilty of doing random stuff and violence as well. They don't really talk about them, do they? They somehow remain quiet. But we are here to expose the truth and the true face of the Labour Party, the WHO, and the WEF. Thanks again for everybody for supporting our channel. Leave a comment and let's find out who's going to get the most popular comment for the next shout out at the end of this drop. Come to you guys every day between Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. with Disrupt, and of course make sure that you guys get what you don't really receive from the mainstream media. Thanks for watching. I'm Tousi and this was Disrupt.